Dear guys, today I'm going to teach you the third chapter, the Selfish Giant. This is from second book, that is It So Happened. It So Happened. This is second book and chapter third, the Selfish Giant. The name of the lesson is Shelfish Giant. This is the third lesson. We have read two lessons already. Now I am going to talk with you third lesson about third lesson and part 1. Third lesson, part 1. In this lesson, we are going to learn about a giant. First of all, in the beginning, how the giant, a person of great size, giant, that is a person of great size, a man of great size. First of all, in the beginning, how he was cruel. He did not love children, but how his heart changed later on. He became kind, but in the beginning, he was cruel. How his heart changed, just we are going to learn in this story, that is the Selfish Giant and part 1, part first. That is, a giant was there, and he had a beautiful garden. That is, he had a beautiful garden. That is, different kinds of trees were there, different kinds of flowers were there, and children played there. Children also loved to play in this garden, and it was very beautiful garden. Children loved it, and they were very happy there. That is, the giant had gone somewhere to meet his friend. The giant had gone somewhere to meet his friend for 7 years. He stayed with his friend. That's why here children were playing there. But after 7 years, when the giant came back, he returned. What happened? He saw children were playing in the garden. He became angry. He cried, "What are you doing here?" He cried in a very gruff voice, rude voice, and the children who were playing there ran away from there. They ran away from there. They terrified to see the giant, how the giant cried, said, "My garden is my own garden." These were the words of the giant. My garden, my own garden is my own. My own garden is my own garden. These were the words of the giant. The children, hearing this, terrified and ran away from there. That is, what he did after that, he said he will allow no one to play there, to enter in his garden. That is, it was not allowed. He announced, he put a notice board in front of the garden. What was written there? Trespassers will be prosecuted. Those who will enter in this garden without permission, those who will enter in this garden, they will be punished. That is, the giant was very selfish giant he was. The poor children had no other place to play. That is, the children had no other place to play. That's why they started playing on the road. Thus, on the road they started playing, but the road was dusty and full of hard stones. That is, it was not plain. That's why children were facing troubles when they were playing on the road. They did not like it. They liked to play in the giant's garden. But now they are facing problem when they are playing on the road. How happy we were there. They talking. Children were talking. How happy we were there in the garden. But here we are not happy. Then spring came. Spring, Vasant Ritu, Aya, Vasant Ritu. All over the country, spring was there. Spring came there. But except the garden of the giant. That is, there were little blossoms and little birds, they were singing here and there. Only in the garden of the selfish giant, no spring was there. No changing took place. No changing took place there in the garden of the giant. Only it was winter there. You will know, winter tha. No spring. The birds did not care to sing as it were there. No children. The birds did not sing. Why? Because there were no children. No children were not playing there. That's why. And trees forgot to blossom. Trees did not bloom in spring. Why? Because it was only winter there. It was winter in the garden. No spring. Beautiful flowers put its head out from the grass, and but it was the notice board. That is, there was a notice board. No one was allowed to enter in the garden. That's why there was winter, and that is only there was snow and frost. Snow and frost was there. Spring has forgotten this garden. Spring has forgotten this garden. No spring was there in the garden. They cried, so we live there all year round. All year there was frost and snow. All year was there in the garden. The snow covered up the grass. The snow, barf pura ढक लिया, covered the grass and trees, flowers, and frost painted all the trees silver, चांदी नुमा. Everywhere there was snow in the garden. Then they invited the north wind also, north wind, तेज पश्चिम से आने वाली हवा. It was also invited by frost and snow. And it was roaring. The west wind was roaring all day, 24 hours in this garden. And this is a delightful spot where we must ask hail on visit. So the whole hail came. That is, when it was invited, hail came there. Hail, that is, pieces of stone started falling there. Every day there 3 hours he rattled on the roof, on the castle, till he broke most of these slates. That is, it was hailing there. It was hailing in the garden. That is, the giant was not able to understand why it was happening. That is, why it was happening there. He was not able to understand. That is, selfish giant, who confused, and as he sat at the window and looked out at his cold white garden, he sitting on the window, he looked out in his garden. Why it is so? Why there is no changing in the garden, no spring in the garden, only winter was there, and also there was only snow and frost, and west wind was blowing all day, changing in the weather. Just he was hoping, the giant was hoping that soon the weather will change, वहाँ का मौसम बदलेगा. But the spring never came. Spring never came in his garden. Never came in his garden. Only frost and ice was there, hail, nor the summer. Autumn gave golden fruit to every garden. Every garden, that is, fruit was there. That is, out of this garden. But to the giant's garden, she gave none. No fruit was there. No flower was there. No blossoms. He is too selfish. The giant was too selfish. Very selfish. That is, he said, so it was always winter there. Always it was winter in the garden of the giant. Only it was winter there. And the north wind and hail. North wind was roaring there in the garden, and also hail. And the frost and the snow danced about through the trees. One morning, when the giant was lying awake in his bed, just he was lying awake, जगा था, सोया था, जगा हुआ था, when he heard some lovely music, music. he heard when he was lying in his bed. It sounded too sweet to his ears. It was very melodious, sweet music he heard. He thought it must be the king musicians passing by. Just he thought that this sound is of king musicians, but it was not king musician, but it was a bird. It was bird which was singing there, sweet song. Really only the linnet singing outside his window. Outside his window, a linnet was singing sweet music. He heard it. It seemed to him to be the most beautiful music in the world. The giant thought that it was the most beautiful music in the world. And then the hail stopped dancing over his head. And then he thought, hail stopped dancing over his head, and the north wind ceased roaring when the birds sang sweet song, that is, hail stopped. And a delicious perfume came to his through the open casement. Believe the spring has come at last. And then the giant thought that spring has come now. And he jumped out of his bed and looked out through the window. Through the window, he started to see what was there, how this changing took place there. This is the first part of this lesson. This is the first part of the lesson, third, the selfish giant. Next part I will tell you next day. Okay.